Hey guys, what is up? Welcome back to another episode of Wintuition. I'm your boy CJ.
I'm Wyatt.
And today we're bringing you a spicy Outlaws of Thunder Junction cEDH set review. And I am very hyped about this set review. There is 30 cards we are reviewing today.
And it's not often we get maybe more than like 8 to 10 cards in a set that can even possibly see play in our format, let alone a set that has maybe 15 that are probably going to become staples in the format.
Yeah, and while they're not all going to be bangers, there is a lot of potential or a lot of cool design space, which we'll get to a little bit later. But before we get into the set review, I do want to mention that some unrelated note. We were just at Pun City.
Yeah, Pun City 3 just happened this past weekend. It was our group's first time going to the event, and it was very fun. I personally would like to say thank you to the judging staff and the event organizers for putting that together. It
Fantastic
was a good time. Got to hang out with a bunch of cool people that we usually only get to see at cons and events. So it's always nice coming across some of our friends, having good times.
Yeah, we got to meet Gold Saber. What a great artist and a great person for sure. I know that while we all didn't do well in the tournament, we had a fantastic time, and we are definitely going back for next year. So,
oh, absolutely.
So if you haven't gone yet, try to, because it is definitely worth it. So, all right, now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's get right into the set review, starting with White. I feel like White has definitely come a long way, and it just seems to be getting more and more love from WotC. So we're going to start out with one of the best bangers in the White set here, Aven Interrupter. It is a 3 mana, 1 generic, 2 white, bird rogue with Flash and Flying, and is a 2/2 body, and it has the coolest ETB, which we have not seen yet. Whenever Aven Interrupter enters the battlefield, exile target spell. It becomes plotted. So this essentially can exile a counter spell off the stack and make it a dead card because it can only be cast at sorcery speed.
On the next turn, yep. It's also a pseudo white counter spell because you can stop other people threatening to win the game with it.
Sure.
At least at that instant speed moment, because it could create another round of priority or slow them down. Sure. Maybe that 2 extra mana they don't have.
Exactly. And it has an excellent, in my opinion, static ability. Spells your opponents cast from graveyards or exile cost 2 more to cast. So it really tightens up the mana for those breach decks.
Absolutely. It shuts off Lion's Eye Diamond for Wheel of Fortune.
I mean, it
can't pay for both.
It cannot pay for both. So, well.
Yeah, because it'll make the Lion's Eye cost 2 and Wheel costs 5.
You still float 1.
Each time?
3 mana, 2.
No, doesn't the Wheel become 5 because you still have to pay 5?
Well, if you make a bunch of mana with LED.
But it costs 2. Oh, I guess if you just cast the LED first,
a couple times. If your
you can't do it infinitely, but you could do it several times. It makes it really, really hard.
It makes it more difficult.
Yes,
yes. So definitely going to see playing a decent amount of decks. I'm not sure specifically what decks are going to use this the most.
Probably like blue, white, and just like 3 color decks the most. Sure. I don't know if it'll find its way into like the 4 and 5 color piles, for example, but definitely in like white or white X decks.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm hyped about this card, but let's move on to the next one. We got to stay on the topic here. You got this one.
So up next, we have High Noon. It is a 1 and a white enchantment, and it says each player can't cast more than 1 spell each turn, and for 4 and a red, sacrifice High Noon, it deals 5 damage to any target. So this is the first rule of law effect that we have been given that has the ability to sacrifice itself, and it's at instant speed on top of that, which is really, really good. Now this is a Boros card, so you can only run it in certain lists.
Yeah.
However, I do think this has a lot of upside because not only can you kind of keep it around until you're ready to quote-unquote go off if you're that type of deck, or if you're in a scenario where this has become a hindrance and you need your opponents to be able to help you, you can just potentially sack it, free your opponents up to help stop the person who is threatening to win.
Yeah, definitely. I think it could even see play in a cEDH deck. While cEDH is a creature deck, and it runs Deafening Silence, this is still pretty good because she can work around rule of law effects, and then you're also able to use, she makes a lot of mana, you can use that sacrifice ability to destroy the oppo that's stopping you, or
from tutoring,
or something else that's, keeping you back. So pretty versatile.
That's actually not the bad, or sorry, excuse me, that's not the worst idea. That's pretty solid.
So, pretty good card. All right, I'm going to move on to the next one, and this is a pretty obscure one. You're probably wondering why I chose this one. Rustler Rampage. It is a new mechanic, Spree. Very strong mechanic. I really like this. It's a modal type card. So for 1 white and 1 generic, you can untap all creatures target player controls. Well, at base value, like, why are you going to play this in cEDH? There's one deck in particular where you want to untap a creature, and that is Cody. So it is a relatively cheap spell. You can untap Cody and continue doing your Cody things. I know Cody already has a plethora of these effects, but I'm not sure if he wants 1 in white. So, you know.
I mean, it is just 1 more. 2 mana for the ability to tap for its 5, correct, on Cody? Is not the worst?
Correct. Yeah.
It's just good rate.
Yeah.
That's what most of the rituals are.
So, as far as fixing goes, when you're trying to make those spells, it might be relevant to run a white one over a green one, if you will. So, not a bad card, though. Moving on to the next white card.
All right, so up next, we have Final Showdown. While at first this card seems insane, and it is, it's 1 white and an instant with Spree, and it says for 1 colorless, all creatures lose all abilities until end of turn. 1 extra colorless, choose a creature you control, it gains indestructible until end of turn, and for 3 and 2 white, you can destroy all creatures. So obviously this is just a Wrath of God and potentially a Dress Down all at the same time in white, which is very, very good. The drawback is, unlike Dress Down, it does not affect creatures that come in post it being cast, and it does not replace itself with the card draw.
Correct, it's not static.
It is still a very, very good effect. I don't know how often you're really going to be paying that 5 mana to destroy all creatures unless you're kind of in a bad scenario.
6 mana.
Or, sorry, you're right, you're the 6 mana.
Additional.
Just because that's expensive, but there are probably going to be scenarios where it happens.
Yeah.
But I think you're mostly going to be playing this card for the Dress Down type effect, and I think in decks that maybe don't have blue, it's totally fine to run this. And even if you're in like blue-white, I think playing both is still totally fine as well.
It's not terrible. It's a cool card for sure. I really like the Spree mechanic in general for this set. It's very flavorful, very unique, and just fresh. So
I also like that you can get value out of it even if some of the abilities are dead. Like, I just really enjoy the modal abilities on cards.
And with Spree, you can just cast it for the white and not even choose a mode, and it just adds to Storm.
Yeah, so there's interesting things there too. You can just put triggers on the stack for the sake of needing to cast things.
Yeah. So moving on to blue cards next. Now, I will say I don't usually do honorable mentions, but when I saw this card, it just came up a little short. And I think it still deserves a little bit of,
attention.
It is Archmage's Newt. At 1 and a blue, 2/2, Salamander Mount. Whenever Archmage's Newt deals combat damage to a player, target instant or sorcery card in your graveyard gains flashback until end of turn. The flashback cost is equal to its mana cost. That card gains flashback 0 until end of turn if Archmage's Newt is saddled and it has Saddle 3. Now, if Archmage's Newt had Saddle 2, I think this card would be pretty bonkers in cEDH because a lot of the good commanders, Timna, Malcolm, even cards like, you could even say Vial Smasher it too, if you're going for a Rick strategy like a Malcolm Vial Smasher. Being able to get a flashback for 0, that could be a Peer into the Abyss, that could be an ad, like, just seems very, very strong.
The only other drawback I'll say with the Saddle 3 is because it's kind of awkward. There's not a lot of creatures in our format that have naturally 3 power unless you're willing to combine multiple. Like, I think Opposition Agent and Ranger Captain are the only 2 off the top of my head I can think of. It doesn't have any evasion, so that's the other downside.
Yeah.
So it is a 2/2, and people might not always want to trade, but there's a lot of random 1/4s and like 2/3s in the format, so you probably aren't always going to be able to get in.
Yeah.
So I'd agree with the honorable mention on this.
Yeah, for sure. I will say, as a Tivit player, in the early game, I get attacked a lot because I have no creatures.
No creatures. That used to happen to me on Urza too, so I feel you there.
But yeah, definitely a cool card. It'll probably see play in casual EDH, but sweet card. So moving on to the next one, I think this was one of that you picked out.
So we have Esoteric Duplicator next. It is 2 and 1 blue, and it is an artifact clue. So I like that because there's not a lot of things that have clue as a subtype. And it says whenever you sacrifice Esoteric Duplicator or another artifact, you may pay 2 colorless. If you do, at the beginning of the next end step, create a token that's a copy of that artifact, and you can sack it to draw a card. So this card goes infinite with Ugin's Nexus and a KCI, because you can sacrifice your Ugin's Nexus to the KCI, which will trigger the Esoteric Duplicator's ability where you can pay 2 mana to make the copy with the mana generated by KCI, and Ugin's Nexus will trigger to give you an extra turn, and then you just proceed to take infinite turns.
I also think I saw this online through a Twitter feed, you can also do it with Mindslaver.
Oh, that's sweet. You can just Mindslaver lock people.
Yeah.
That's hot.
So it definitely has a lot of sweet combo potential. Maybe in a Brea list, Urza, other artifacts, strat decks.
Yeah, like, I don't think it goes in Tivit because the Tivit list is so tight.
Oh, no.
But, like, maybe your grindier, like, blue X decks, like your 2-color and mono blue decks, for sure.
So, yeah. I mean, it's a cool card. Again, a banger. It's a mythic rare, so, you know, you have to expect some type of expectancy with these kind of things. So, all right, moving on to the next one. I picked this one out because, if you haven't seen our latest cEDH gameplay video, I was on Heliod, or as they say, Wheeliod, and I feel like this card may find a home in that deck. 3 steps ahead at just 1 blue mana with the Spree mechanic. You can either pay an additional generic and a blue to counter target spell, blue and then 3 generic to create a token that's a copy of target artifact or creature you control, which is pretty strong. All these clones effects are being seen more in different cEDH decks, whether they're creature-based or artifact-based, or you can just draw 2 and discard a card. So it has a lot of viability, and I think it may find a home in this deck. I do follow the Discord, and there has been chatter for this, so it might be a card in there.
Yeah, potentially just playing 1 blue and doing both the 2nd and 3rd ability for free in the Wheelion deck, for example, like you said, is really good. In other decks, it's solid, for example, because most of the time, you'd be willing to pay 4 mana for a Phyrexian Metamorph if you really had to, and you could do the same thing with this card. It does copy Docksides, which is always very relevant in the format.
It copies a 1-ring.
Ooh, I didn't even think of that. It does copy a 1-ring.
At instant speed.
Ooh, so you can give yourself protection in response to someone trying to kill you.
You cannot, because you're not casting it.
You're so right. It's still good, though.
It's still cool. I mean, it's still versatile, for sure. I don't think we've seen an instant speed clone effect like that. So, except like maybe stunt double, but
it's extra good because you can sit on it in your hand and sandbag it while going off. Somebody tries to remove your combo piece, clone it, keep going.
I just think I just with the Spree mechanics being so versatile as modal cards, it's just
so solid. I love it. Yeah, I'm with you. I like modal a lot.
All right. So I also picked this card out because again, Wheeliod.
So up next, we have Step Between Worlds. It's 3 and 2 blue. Each player may shuffle their hand and graveyard into their library. Each player who does draws 7 cards, and then exiles Step Between Worlds. And it also has Plot for 4 and blue. So I think this card is pretty solid, like CJ said, in decks where you can either reduce the mana cost, or you can pay just straight up 2 blue for it, or decks that generate a lot of mana. So like Urza, Mizzix, Wheeliod, decks that are really going to be able to, like, quote unquote, cheat this out. I do necessarily think, sorry, let me reword that. I don't necessarily think the ability for your opponents to deny shuffling in is the best, because they can just kind of keep the gas they have. Whereas like a Time Twister, for example, might kind of disrupt. But I do still think this is a very solid effect.
So why I chose this is because I feel like a lot of times, at least when I was playing the deck a couple of times, I felt like I ran out of gas. But I was already ahead. I've already had wheeled, and I needed different fuel. So seeing a fresh 7 is just better, because they're going to deny it because they don't want me to have a bigger cost reduction. So it does play very well in that sense, because
in that deck specifically, way more of a hassle.
Someone either also may try and help find an answer to stop someone else.
That's true as well.
So it has some politic-esque features to it, but
and I guess if someone denies to get the new hand, you kind of know they're sitting on some gas.
Correct.
So that paints a little bit of a target towards them.
Yeah. So, all right, moving on to black. Now there wasn't a ton, roughly the same number of other cards, but I feel like black isn't as strong as some of the other colors we've seen thus far. But we're going to start off with this one. I really think this card has some potential. Again, it's not a huge banger, has some potential. At just 3 generic and a black, it's called Pitiless Carnage. It is a sorcery, so again, not instant speed, slightly bit of a downer, but sacrifice any number of permanents you control, then draw that many cards. And it does have Plot for 1 colorless and 2 black, so it is a little more mana intensive having the 2 black pips, but as a Tivit player, there are a lot of times where I'm sitting on 6, 8, even 9 to 12 clue tokens, and I'm like, man, I'm just kind of like, here, I have to spend 2 mana for each. I don't want to really invest all of that mana into a clue. Now, yes, I can do it on other people's turns or end step going into my turn,
but it stacks up.
It does stack up, and this could just draw me 12 cards.
Or even in other decks, for example, like a Yuriko, where it might have a lot of quote-unquote dead creatures on board. If Yuriko can't stay in play, you could sack like all your little guys, draw some cards. Or Corvold, sack like 4 or 5 things, draw double the cards.
Correct, exactly. So, I mean, it definitely has some potential. I know that things like Final Word Phantom are seeing more play, where you can cast things at instant speed on end step. So, this does make this a little more potent, if you will.
Also, with things like Born Upon the Wind as well.
Correct. It just makes it a little more maybe includable. Does it push it over the edge? We'll see, but who knows?
Yeah, we'll have to find out.
Now, this card, though, I think, which you're going to be covering, will see play.
So, up next, we have Insatiable Avarice. This is a 1 black sorcery with Spree. And for 2 generic, you can search a library for a card, shuffle, and put that card on top. And then for 2 additional black, you can have target player draw 3 cards and lose 3 life. So this is slightly above rate for like a Beseech Mirror, where you could get a card and then immediately have it to your hand. It is more expensive than all of the other like quote-unquote staple black tutors.
Yeah.
However, putting just putting just another tutor in the deck in general will always be good. I think in black, in like black X decks, even with the upgraded cost to cast, it's still going to see play just because tutors are always, quote unquote, the card you need.
Yeah. I think the one deck that really is going to utilize this card is Crick. Because you can pay essentially 2, 4, 6, 7, 9 life to tutor and draw an additional 2 cards, one of them being the one you want. Pretty decent.
And in that deck, you're very much a go, go, go. So if you're doing that, you're probably getting there that turn.
Correct. So I don't know if it is too much of a cost at being at 9 life. That's a fourth of your life almost.
It's pretty steep.
For Crick, but I mean, decent card.
Yeah, like I said, I'd agree. Even in just like black or black X decks, the tutor ability is worth considering.
Yeah. All right. Now I get to talk about a card that I'm pretty hyped about. Tiny Bones joins up. At 1 black mana, it is a legendary enchantment. Whenever Tiny Bone joins up, enters the battlefield, any number of target players each discard a card. So it's card disadvantage for your opponents as well, which is pretty nice because you're pitching a card essentially to do that to them. So it's a Thought Seize for 3 players. But then the really important part about this card is the second half, which is whenever a legendary creature enters the battlefield under your control, any number of target players each mill a card and lose a life. So you're able to mill your opponents out as well as drain them
infinitely.
Not infinitely, the number of cards in their deck essentially.
Oh, yes.
If you wanted to. I mean, you could do it infinitely. And just go mana positive with a Dockside Emil. Or a Dockside, or I'm sorry, not a Dockside, a Derevian Emil, where you can infinitely flicker Derevian and have it enter the battlefield. And just win that way, and you just be neutral. You don't even have to be mana positive.
Yeah, so that's the nice part about this combo, is a lot of combos require you to have that 1 additional mana to go positive. There's not many where you just get the payoff of neutrality, and this is one of the few ones. Also, it could potentially see like play in Sisay lists. I'm not entirely sure, just because it's 1 mana.
Yeah, that was my Emil and Revi are the infinite mana.
In the Sisay
You're
list.
good. Sorry.
Sorry.
It's okay. All good. But yeah, no, definitely a good card. I definitely think that it will see testing. I know a lot of people in the Discord prefer this less because it is disadvantaged versus Oath of Nissa gives you a card and it replaces itself. So yeah,
we'll just have to find out and see.
For sure. All right, let's move on to the main attraction that I think everyone's excited for in casual and cEDH.
All right, so up next, we have Tiny Bones the Pickpocket. This is a 1 black mana, 1/1 legendary creature, skeleton rogue, and he has Death Touch. Whenever I'll read it properly. Whenever Tiny Bones the Pickpocket deals combat damage to a player, you may cast target non-land permanent card from that player's graveyard, and mana of any type can be spent to cast that spell. So this card is maybe not an auto-include, but I think a lot of people aren't blocking it if you happen to play this card in your deck.
Sure. Because
a lot of the random creatures people are going to be leaving on their field are going to be like mana dorks or things like an Oppo, a Bowmaster, like a value piece they're not necessarily going to want to get rid of. And potentially stealing like a tutor or just a draw effect, or even maybe a win con if you're really lucky from somebody else's graveyard. I think this card has a lot of upside. I just don't necessarily know where the home of it will be.
Again, I definitely think it falls in that Malcolm Timna. It's a 1-drop creature with the keyword Death Touch, so it's probably going to get through in the early game.
And you can draw cards.
Yeah, so I mean, best case scenario, someone cracked a Lotus Petal to cast their commander, or a Jeweled Lotus.
Just steal it, yep.
Seems pretty decent. I will say, at a 1/1, it just is an auto target for Bowmaster.
That is the downside.
Yeah.
However, a lot of things in this format insta-die to Bowmaster.
Correct.
So, is it really that big of a downside?
No, I just wish it was a 1/2 because its former iteration was a 2/1. So I feel like
at a 1/2 he'd be a little too good though, because there's a lot of 1 power things in our format as well.
I mean, but look at Ragavan. Ragavan's a 2/1.
That's
After
true.
that 1-drop, it does similarly the same thing.
So I almost think this is slightly better than Ragavan because it has Death Touch though, even though it's only 1 power.
That's true.
And I say that having the number 420 Ragavan.
That is true. I think you're a little biased, but yeah, sure.
I still think he's slightly better than Ragavan though.
I think it's a fun card. I'm going to try and find a home somewhere for it in one of my decks, but it's a cool card for sure. All right, that's going to wrap up Black. I'm really excited for Red. I think Red has got some real good heat. Some of the best playables in the format. But I'm going to start off with one that may not be the most notable, but it's going to be Generous Plunderer. It is a 1 in a red human rogue with Menace. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may create a treasure token. When you do, target opponent creates a tapped treasure token. Whenever Generous Plunderer attacks, it deals damage to the defending player equal to the number of artifacts they control, and it is a 2/2. So having Menace, pretty decent. You know, it has a little bit of evasion. It's going to get through, especially if someone has a mana dork out. They can get around it, what have you. And being in cEDH, a lot of our mana production is artifacts. So, let's say Blue Farm has 3 artifacts out. You give them a tapped treasure token. You're hitting them for 6.
Or decks like Tivit, where they're just stacking up those clues and treasures. You're hitting them for like 10 plus.
Yeah, which I don't ever want to see this on the other side of the table. I'll waste the swords on it all day, for sure.
Yeah, because if you are only creatures Tivit, what are you doing besides getting attacked by this 2/2?
Yeah, I cannot block a Menace human rogue, for sure. Yeah, definitely a decent card. I will say, Delny, it is a 2/2. Maybe there will be a Jeskai
kind of like
list.
Delny secret commander.
Yeah, or with humans maybe. Maybe you could even do like the Friends Forever and do like Jim Hopper and 11 and do like a
that'd be pretty
fans
good.
green list with human tribal, because 11 is a 1/4, I believe, so you can trigger it twice. Like I don't know.
3/5.
Oh, 3/5.
Yes.
Okay, I thought it was a 1/4. But yeah, I mean, I just think it'd be kind of cool to see if someone brews something. Maybe we'll do it. Who knows? I think there's potential here.
There is definitely potential for sure.
Now this card though, gas. You got this one though, so I'll let you do it.
So up next we have Molten Duplication. It's 1 in a red. It is a sorcery. Create a token that's a copy of target artifact or creature you control, except it's an artifact in addition to its other types. It gains haste until end of turn, and you sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. So obviously, the first thing off the bat, this goes infinite with Dual Caster Mage. Just another nice combo piece there. It also copies your Docksides. Any card that does that's just generically good. Copies your Italis. Awesome in that deck.
For sure.
There's probably some good artifacts copy targets. Maybe not One Ring because you have to sacrifice it at the end of turn. But if you're going attempting to go off and Magda deck, for example, and someone has an interaction, maybe you try to copy your combo piece.
Perhaps, yeah. Well, it's sorcery speed.
Oh, right. So that wouldn't work. Yeah, never mind. It's still really good regardless.
Definitely. I mean, a lot of decks are playing Heat Shimmer, which is 3 mana. So if their list is tight, they can cut down on that 3-pip and go to a 2-pip that does the same thing. But I guarantee they're going to just play all 3.
Yeah.
Why not?
Especially if you're on the Atali deck.
Or even just on a dual caster plan. I mean, just makes the most sense. So yeah, I mean, it's a staple. So
it's just another easy one, yeah.
Exactly. Now this one, obscure at first glance. You may think this might not be anything, but I think there's something here. So Great Train Heist is a 1 red with instant with spree. So I'll read them all, but I think the most important one is at the bottom. So for 2 in a red plus an additional red, untap all creatures you control. If it's your combat phase, there's additional combat phase after this phase. Decent, not great. casual playable, but not C.
Yeah.
For a red and 2, creatures you control get +1/+0 and gain first strike on the turn. Pretty mid. But for a red and a red, choose target opponent. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to that player this turn, create a tap treasure token. So for me, this is a mag to include, potentially. So for 2 red, you can attack with your dwarves. You can get double the amount of treasures. You can attack the player that's wide open.
Yep.
And then have an activation.
And if you have enough mana to really go for it, you can potentially do the first mode with the bottom mode in your Magna deck to get 2 combats with double the treasures. Like if it ends up being mana positive for you, that's just insane value.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I definitely think, again, who knows if it'll see play. I am not a Magna player.
I'm not either,
but
I'm sure the list is pretty tight.
Yeah, I just think it has potential to maybe see play in a slot there to be able to maybe go a little faster. But yeah, it's a cool card though.
Because you could use it as pseudo ritual just to go up to the 5 treasures immediately in one turn.
Yeah. I mean, if you're attacking with, let's just even say 2, and you've already tapped 1, that's
that's 5 right there.
So yeah. All right, so let's move on to the next one. This one we also did a short on.
So up next is Return the Favor. This is a red instant with Spree. It is 1 additional colorless to copy target instant spell, sorcery spell, activated ability, or triggered ability, and you may choose new targets for the copy. And then for 1 extra colorless, you can change a target of spell or ability with a single target. Now for me personally, I think this is literally my favorite card in the set. I think it has the most versatility out of any card we've seen. You can potentially copy Dockside triggers, you can copy Thoracle triggers if your opponent is attempting to win, and in response, cast your own Demonic Consultation and present a win. You could theoretically, I don't know of a situation where it would be beneficial, but you could copy things like a Ranger Captain sack to like double silence on a turn. I
mean, I think if any consolation, if you're going to use that activated ability on this card, it would be in response to someone trying to go and win on their turn. You can do it in response to stop them from casting any non-creature spells.
Oh yeah, so that's what I'm saying, yeah. So there's upside there. You could potentially use it to copy Sisay activation for 3 mana instead of an additional 5. I don't know if it goes in that list, for example. But like decks with activated abilities in the command zone, if it's more efficient to do that, it's really good as well.
Yeah, I think definitely even just copying a Dockside.
Yeah, just straight up copying a Dockside's always awesome. And the fact that you can swat with it if it's just in your hand and there's nothing valuable to target or to copy at the moment.
You can even copy a counter that's on the stack to protect someone else from trying to go off.
You can copy Beseech the Mirrors, you can copy Ad Nauseam.
There's just so much.
It's so good. There's so many things you can do with this card. I genuinely think it's my favorite card in the set.
It's sweet, for sure. I like it a lot. All right, moving on to one of my favorite cards in the set, which I think this card is bonkers. Crackling Spell Slinger. Now, at 5 mana, 3 generic and 2 red, it is pretty costly for a 2/2 human wizard, but the effect it has is pretty insane. So it has Flash. Whenever Crackling Spell Slinger enters the battlefield, if you cast it, the next instant or sorcery spell you cast this turn has Storm. Like, there's some potential there.
There's a lot of silly things you can give Storm. One of the first things I thought of, and though this is pretty mana intensive, imagine you put a Thoracle trigger on the stack, and you... Alright, in response, I would like to hold priority, flash in Crackling Spellsinger, hold priority, I guess you'd have to let that resolve, and then hold priority again, cast your Demonic Consultation, but with Storm. And then they have to counter like 10 of them.
I mean, I don't know what deck would be playing that, but I mean, it's
just cool.
It's pretty cool. For me, I think it maybe fits into an Atali list. When you're going off with Atali and making multiple clones with Atali, you can hit a lot of cool spells that you would want to hit Storm with. And sometimes if this hits later and you've already cast 14 spells, 16 spells, whatever, it just becomes even better for you. Like it has, the ceiling is very high for it, right? Because you're also not only going off what's in your deck, you're going off what your opponents are playing. So it just seems sweet.
I also think it's really good in like red and black Storm decks that are going to be playing like a lot of tutors and rituals, because there's going to be tons of good targets in there where if they can just do any of those for like 4 or 5, they're probably winning the game.
This might be potentially a card in Bergie. I know the CMC of the deck is relatively very, very low, but this could just be a top end piece that
kind of pushes it over that edge.
Potentially, or even like you said, with rituals, it could just increase your mana tenfold potentially if you're giving it Storm.
The upside is so high.
Yeah.
The downside to it though is it is 5 mana, so it's got a high investment.
Yeah, for sure. That's the thing that's like, if it was 3 mana, we would be cooking with gas. Sure. But yeah, so decent card for sure. Pretty pumped. All right, moving on. Next red card is gonna be boom.
So up next we have Mage Bane Lizard. It's 1 under red and it is a lizard 1/4. And it says whenever a player casts a non-creature spell, Mage Bane Lizard deals damage to that player equal to the number of non-creature spells they've cast this turn. So this card straight up says you can't win with Underworld Breach if this is in play.
Pretty much.
You will die. Not just that, like other Storm strategies, like this is just so solid. I think a lot of the decks that will be playing this are maybe things like Winota, where they're not going to be as punished by those stacks pieces. But they really want the game to like go a little longer and try to punish their opponents. Because if you have to waste a removal spell on this, then you're not removing like a Dranith or something else more critical later on.
Yeah, I mean, I will say I like this card a lot because it is essentially another Rug of Smothering. Rug of Smothering says you lose a life for each spell cast, and it affects every player. This just does the same thing, but essentially it's just damage. It's very cool. It also is a 1/4, which blocks a pretty good amount of cards. It blocks a Tymna. It blocks
a lot of things in the format.
Other things it can block. Again, another thing that I brought up before in the video is Delny. Like, it triggers twice. Like, there's got to be something here. I'm telling you right now, cEDH community, help us build this deck. It is going to be viable.
The Delny Secret Commander list.
We'll take down a format, or we'll take down a tournament with it, for sure. But this card, I mean, look at the art. Let's just admire the art. That lizard is
pretty sweet.
Spitting fire, bro. It's just sweet. The flavor of this set, the art of this set is just by far some of the best I think I've seen since for a while for WotC. So
a lot of it's very good. I like the color palettes on a lot of them as well.
Yeah. All right, so we're gonna move on to green. Oh wait, that's right. There wasn't really any good green cards from this set that we felt deserved to be on the video. Now, while there is a good amount of green cards for casual EDH, there wasn't any, again, that we felt deserved to be on our set review. But before we get into multicolored, here is a message from our sponsor. And I want to take this time now to thank our sponsor of the channel, TOA or Toa Magic. Thank you all so much for supporting us. We really appreciate you and helping us grow. And if you want to like this video and want to see more content from us, you can also support us when you're looking for singles or seal product. You can go to toamagic.com and use our discount code at checkout, Wintuition, to save 5% off your entire order. TOA Magic has over 77,000 SKUs on their website. With over 1 million orders shipped, they ship all in one package, straight to you, and offer free track shipping on all orders. So go check them out. And again, thank you, Toa, for sponsoring our channel. We really appreciate your support. Now moving on to multicolored, starting off with this one.
So up next, we have Vile Smasher, Gleeful Grenadier. He is a red and a black legendary creature, Goblin Mercenary. He's a 3/2, and he says whenever another outlaw enters the battlefield under your control, he deals 1 damage to target opponent. So I don't know how many outlaws are in decks like Obnixilis, for example, but this could potentially be like another pinger in that deck where you could exile things to the top. I also think as a potential commander, this card is really good with infinite dockside lines where you're trying to aggressively do that, as you can ping your opponents. Maybe it could also see play in like a kind of Mardu stacks list if you're doing stuff there. I think the card's got some pretty good upside.
It also can even see play in a Sisay list because I will say as a Sisay player, it's very hard to find cards with black pips. A lot of our pips rely on Bant. So having that black pip in the list is
and it being
relevant.
2 mana.
Correct. It's a low creature, and we're always trying to find dockside so I could start our loop. So pretty decent. I don't know if it will fit in the list, but it has potential to be in the list.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
It could also potentially be its own list as well.
For sure. All right, moving on. Now this one is pretty fire. Now, I'm not taking credit for this. This card right here, Stella Lee wild card for 1 blue and a red. It is a legendary creature, human rogue. Whenever you cast your second spell each turn, exile a top card of your library. Until end of your next turn, sorry about that, you may play that card. It has an activated ability, tap, copy target instant or sorcery spell you control. You may choose new targets for the copy. Activate only if you've cast 3 or more spells this turn. So Elder Drunken Highlander, Josh specifically, built this deck and had tested it with a bunch of people. He made a whole video about it. This card is apparently one of the best blue-red commanders that we've had for a while because it goes infinite with any 1-drop or even like a 2 CMC, 3 CMC card that makes you untap target creature and draw cards. So you can hold priority and just wave goodbye to your opponents because you're winning.
Yep, you're just going through your whole deck.
Yeah, so...
And even if you're not doing that, just the first static ability is a great card advantage engine at 3 mana.
For sure. I mean, it's a 2/4 body. Like, you're chilling. Can block a lot of things. It's not a Bowmaster target, having that big booty. So, solid card. I'm really curious to see if we'll see this in any tournaments now that Thunder Junction will be releasing as of Friday. If you'll see it on any top 16s or even just on the roster.
I think it's also going to be interesting because not a lot of people, it's going to have Brewer's advantage coming out of the gate here.
Sure, for sure, 100%. So definitely I think we're going to be seeing a lot more of Stella Lee because she is definitely a wild card for the CEDH format.
That's true.
All right, moving on. Let's check out this card.
So up next we have Rakdos, the Muscle. He is 2, black, and a red, a legendary creature demon mercenary, and he is a 6/5 with flying and trample. He says whenever you sacrifice another creature, exile cards equal to its mana value from the top of target player's library. Until your next end step, you may play those cards, and mana of any type can be spent to cast those spells. Then he also says sacrifice another creature, Rakdos gains indestructible until end of turn, and tap it. So as a card advantage engine, this is pretty solid because you can not only aggressively dig through your deck, you can steal from your opponent's decks as well, which is very good. Not a lot of people enjoy when you start to cast their spells. Potentially just hitting combo pieces from your opponents if you're in a bad spot is really strong as well.
So while this may not be like the most prevalent, like this is CEDH viable commander, it's a very cool design space for sure, right? It has the sack ability on it already, so you don't need to have to worry about having a sack outlet. In play per se. And it just is cool because you're able to go through your target player's library. So you can, again, hit your own, hit your opponent's, and even win through your opponent's win cons, which I just think is really, really cool. Again, I don't know if it's going to, see a lot of play, but I think it has some potential maybe down the road to be a fringe deck.
Yeah, I don't see it kind of making waves in the meta, but I agree it's got some fringe potential.
Yeah, so. All right, moving on. Now this one, I know Comedian was pretty hype on this one. Roxanne Starfell Savant. 3 generic, red and a green, cat druid. Art is pretty sick, very colorful. Whenever Roxanne Starfall Savant enters the battlefield or attacks, create a tapped colorless artifact token named Meteorite. Whenever Meteorite enters the battlefield, it deals 2 damage to any target, and add 1 mana of any color. Whenever you tap an artifact token or for mana, add 1 mana of any type that artifact produced. So, a lot going on here. First off, you have a semi-kinnin, essentially. Whenever you tap an artifact for mana, you have 1 mana that produces.
Double your treasure mana, double your rock mana.
So good. This is also a food chain outlet, so another red-green food chain deck.
Just kill them with the meteorite triggers.
Correct. It just deals infinite damage on its own. So, pretty sweet. I'm curious to see how it gets built besides the food chain line. Like, what other lines you want to include besides maybe Dual Caster Twin Flame?
So there is a lot of volatility around treasures currently, so potentially it could have some space in assisting decks that are really trying to abuse the treasure mechanic because it's going to be a Kinnin, just another Kinnin in those lists, It is 5 mana though, so if it's not in the command zone, it's probably going to find it's a harder include than some of the other effects like Kinnin, but it doesn't mean it's any worse.
No, I mean, I definitely think it's definitely going to be more of a commander than in the 99, so...
I do think it has potential for sure, though.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure Comedian is going to build this deck
and then try
top
it out.
16.
Yeah.
So I'm going to call it right now, people. Man is a genius. All right, moving on. We got this one. Doc. I'm going to probably pronounce this pretty badly. Arlok. Grizzled Genius. Green and blue. Legendary creature. Bear Druid. Spells you cast from your graveyard or exile cost 2 less to cast. Plotted cards from your hand cost 2 less. It is a 2/3. Now, this card is pretty mid, but I think there is something to be said about this, right? So the first ability, spells you cast from your graveyard or exile cost 2 less to cast. This really fits in a, I'm trying to think of the commander, Grolnok, the frog that puts, I believe, croak counters on cards from your grave. Whenever it goes to the grave, a permanent goes from the graveyard to exile. So
or the graveyard.
Or the graveyard. So like it has potential in that deck. And I feel like this could potentially open up like a Teamer breach line because it does reduce the cost of your spells, so it frees up a lot of more of your mana. I think even in a Sultai list, you know, you could even go Yogg's Will and all of your stuff now is
just
cheaper.
2 less, yeah. It's still really, really good value.
Yeah.
I think it could potentially see its own deck, maybe as a Food Chain Simic pile, but it would be a little clunky.
Yeah, I
think it might be better in the 99.
For sure. I just think it doesn't have an I win the game on it like
it doesn't do enough
Roxanne does or like Atali. So, but I think the ability itself feels, like you said, belongs in a 99 somewhere of a Sultai Teamer list. Or even the Grolnok deck. So just blue-green. All right. I took that one by accident, but I'm going to give you the next one.
It's all good. All right, so up next we have Pest Control. It's a white and a black sorcery. Destroy all non-land permanents with mana value 1 or less, and it has cycling for 2 generic. So I personally love this card. I'm a massive fan of the card Culling Ritual. I know the rest of my play group hates when I cast Culling Ritual.
Yeah.
So having potentially 2 Culling Rituals in the format to kill all of the good, well, not all of the good mana rocks, because there's a lot of good 2 mana rocks. But most of the fast mana is 1 or less, so being able to kill that isn't anything to sneeze at.
Yeah, I mean, I will say it's a baby Culling Ritual in the sense that while it does destroy X or less, it doesn't give you the mana.
Yep.
But it does give you a card if it becomes dead later.
Which isn't the worst.
Which isn't the worst. When this came out and it got spoiled, everyone started texting me like, are you going to run this in Tivit? I'm like, why would I run this in Tivit? It destroys all of my artifacts. Like, no. It does destroy creatures too, the 1 mana dork. So I don't know what kind of a deck this is going to belong in. Maybe in like a Tevish Tymna list where you're turboing out Tevish and then
you want things off the board.
You get off. You clear all the artifacts off the board, setting your opponent's back to get that Tivit ult. Or Tevish ult. Sorry, I got Tivit on the mind. I'm a Tivit player. Let's not forget. So yeah, I think that maybe,
or like things like Lotho even.
Yeah, even on a Lotho list, like. I will say Lotho does make the treasures, so like you better play this as your first spell, then
do something else. Yeah.
But yeah, so like, I just don't know where else it might see play because it is just being 1 or less. While it does hit, Soul Rings, all the mocks, all the 0 mana rocks.
Hits tokens.
It does hit tokens, which is relevant in Najeela. For sure. Treasures. So it is sorcery speed though, so it feels a little slow.
I think it's good. I think it almost might be just barely good enough to be in our format, if that makes sense. Like it's almost just. Sorry, that's a poor way of wording it. Yeah, that's second.
It's okay. So like the only thing really like that for me, like a lot of people are on Dauntless Dismantler. So best case scenario, someone jams a dockside and they're like, instead of wasting your Dismantler, you can be okay, Pest Control, boom. All of your artifacts are now gone. Good luck. So I feel like there is some potential there since we are running, on the Dauntless Blind Obedience lines in our format. So, running them in our 99s, but I just don't know. We'll see. I mean, time will tell, as I like to say.
Yeah, we'll have to see where this kind of finds itself in the format.
Yeah. Now this one, I think you're really hyped about. Because I did not have it on my list when I set it on my list.
Yeah, so I will be honest, I did see this from some other content creators on YouTube. Unfortunately, I sadly don't remember exactly who made the short I saw, so I'm unable to credit them. But you are able to play this card, and his name is Satoru the Infiltrator for blue and a black, and he is a 2/3 human ninja rogue with menace. And he says whenever Satoru and or one or more other non-token creatures enter the battlefield under your control, if none of them were cast or no mana was spent to cast them, you may draw a card. Or not may, you do draw a card. So this goes infinite with any 0-drop creatures and Cloudstone Curio because you can just dig through your deck and then play your Thoracle and win the game. It's also pretty good just as a value engine, I think, because there's going to be like a lot of the if you're on that strategy with him as a commander, a lot of those creatures are just going to be cantrips for you at that point.
Yeah.
So they won't feel dead, which is nice. He's efficient on mana, which is good too.
Does this just go almost faster than Rogsai?
I don't...
Because if you think about it, I mean, yes, you need your commander out. It is only blue and a black, but you need a Dark Ritual, 2/0 drop creatures, a Cloudstone Curio, and a Vamp Tutor, and 2 lands. I mean, that's like the nuts, right? I mean, I feel like once you assemble that, which isn't, I feel like, a lot to assemble, you, like you said, you draw your deck, and you can essentially, if you're running a lot of free mana, a couple more rituals like Cabal Ritual, you could essentially find even if you don't go Thoracle, you could find another infinite combo.
And you would be on things like Kitten and Hullbreaker in this deck anyway, because Kitten would also work instead of the Curio, and those would give you outlets to go infinite and win the game. I do think it has a lot of potential.
I think it is a cool design space. Thinking like most of the time, Cloudstone lines are always with Dockside, and not having a Dockside just feels really kind of unique to the space. So it will be cool to see if, again, this sees play, or maybe... I shouldn't say takes the Yuriko spot because it's actually a different deck, but if it
it's a different play style.
If it becomes another popular fringe commander, I think this could definitely be built on a budget as well, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, so that's another cool thing about this. Actually, it's a great point. This is one of the few decks where you necessarily don't have to expend a lot on like your lands or your fast mana. You can just play some interaction and the 0-drop creatures, and there are tons of, not tons of, sorry, but Cloudstone Curio has been reprinted a couple times. Yep. I don't think it's super expensive anymore.
Nope, it was just reprinted and Ravnica Remastered, so should be a decent price drop.
Yeah, so I think that's a nice design space as well, because there's not a lot of budget options in the format.
No, not when you're talking about fast mana being
as prevalent
over
as
1,000, yeah. So, yeah, cool card for sure. Moving on to another card I think I really like, because I'm a Sisei player, is Vraska Joins Up. It is a black-green enchantment. Legendary enchantment, let's be specific with that because that's important. Whenever Vraska Joins Up enters the battlefield, put a death touch counter on each creature you control. Pretty strong. Whenever a legendary creature you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. So again, having that black pip on this card at just 2 mana, very strong. A lot of the times we don't have a lot of black pips because a lot of the
quality
is not there. So being that it also is a kind of I can get through and oppress your life totals because my creatures have death touch.
Yeah, you'll probably draw like not a crazy amount, but an incidental handful, like 2 to 3 here, maybe 1 to 2 there.
And I mean, card advantage is still card advantage, and the fact that it also buffs Sisei is very relevant. I don't know if it becomes an auto include because we still are on things like the One Ring, and that is also legendary. But it's still a decent card. I mean, it'll definitely see playing casual for sure.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
So definitely, just the set overall is just full of good cards.
There's also a lot of decks that are just going to incidentally have a high legendary count. So maybe some of like the fringe green black decks. Like I don't know what Get Rog's deck list looks like. It might not have as many creatures, but like there's probably decks where incidentally this is good value.
Yeah, for sure. All right. This one I'm pretty excited about. So let them know why this card seems pretty sweet.
So up next we have Vihan Goldwaker. It is red, white, black, legendary creature, dwarf warlock, and he is a 3/3. He says, other outlaws you control have vigilance and haste, and at the beginning of combat on your turn, you may have treasures you control become a 3/3 construct assassin artifact in addition to its other types until end of turn. So this could potentially be like a new Mardu Stacks deck. Like maybe this could be the Delny deck we've been talking about, because
Maybe.
you could just play things that generate a lot of treasures, turn those into creatures, put damage on your opponents, and then second main phase, use them to do whatever you need to.
Yeah. I will say that this card is not the face commander of the commander precons for Outlaws of Thunder Junction. If you're not recognizing the set symbol, that is why. But some key things to know about this card: it is a dwarf, so Magna can be in the 99, and when you attack with both, you make 2 treasures. So there is a lot of cool what's the word? I can't get synergies, but I can't even say it. Inquidential or something like that. Whatever.
Inconsequential.
Yeah.
Dang it.
We can't speak English. Inconsequential. Yes.
There you go. Jeez.
Synergies within this card itself as a commander. Now, I will say being a red, black, and white is pretty undesirable. I feel like for cEDH players, because we want to be able to cast our commanders with a Jewel Lotus. But it's still a really cool design space for the card, and I just think that, who knows? I think we'll be most likely including this as one of our commanders for our Thunder Junction cEDH
video
gameplay. So
yeah,
be sure to keep an eye on that. That's going to be definitely a cool deck to watch for sure. I'm excited. We'll probably be fighting over who plays that one. So, all right, moving on. Now this one you were pretty hyped on, which I will let you go over this one.
Sure. So this is another artifact card, or not another, an artifact card called Transmutation Font. It is 5 colorless, and you can tap it to create your choice of a blood token, a clue token, or a food token. And then for 3 in tap, you can sacrifice 3 artifact tokens with different names, search your library for an artifact card, and put it onto the battlefield. Activate only as a sorcery. So I spent about 3 years playing Urza. I'll be honest, even at 5 mana, I would probably play this in the Urza list, because you do generate enough mana where the 8 to play and activate is not the steepest cost in the world, and you could go get like a Proteus staff and win the game off that. I don't necessarily know if it goes in too many other decks, but I do think this card has potential. Maybe Magda. It is a little expensive in there too, though.
The only thing is the second ability, you have to sacrifice 3 artifact tokens with different names.
That's
so with Magda, you're only making treasures. Urza, you're making constructs, maybe treasures.
Well, if you're on Chrome Host, you're probably making incubate
Chrome
tokens.
Host, sure, yeah. So there's
there. Incidental tokens in the deck. There's treasures as well in the Urza list. So like, it wouldn't be the easiest, but I think it has potential.
Yeah, it's a cool card. I mean, the art's awesome. So,
unfortunately, I don't think it sees too much play outside of like maybe monocolor decks, though.
Yeah, the card quality just gets too high once you go up to 2, 3, 4 color decks. So. All right, moving on. Now we're going to go into lands because we only have that one artifact. Now, while there is a ton of sick reprints in this set, we did not include any of those in our set review. So just keep that in mind. I am really hyped on this card, though. Fomori Vault. So it is a land. It's not legendary, which I feel like it has the potential to be a legendary land. But nevertheless, it is a colorless land that only produces colorless mana, which is kind of a Debbie Downer. For us cEDH players, we don't play too many colorless lands, but it has the really cool activated ability. For 3 and tap, discard a card, look at the top X cards of your library, where X is the number of artifacts you control. Put one of those cards into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So now, like I said prior, with the mono black sorcery spell, where you sacrifice all your clues, you make a lot of clues that just don't do anything. A lot of the time. So being able to, on end step, if you have 3 available mana, tap, look at the top 9 cards, pick out a piece that you need.
Like, I would have loved this on Urza for the same reason.
I mean, or even, even do you have no interaction in hand and you have the chance to pull a free counter spell to your hand, your deck.
Pitch a land.
I just think it has potential. And I guess, yes, the disadvantage here with discarding a card, pretty janky. Especially when you're going into the 3, 4 color decks. So I will say there are only certain decks that I think will probably play this. 2 or less for sure. Maybe Tivit, that's probably where I would put this at. Because I would definitely want to try this out. But it's just a cool card. I mean, being able to dig deep is the big thing. So
you're essentially trading the worst card in your hand for potentially any better card in your deck.
Yes.
Which is just a solid upgrade most of the time.
Yeah. If it said discard a non-land, this card would be awful.
Yeah.
But if it says any card...
being able to pitch lands to this is very solid.
So, all right. I'm curious if it'll see play in Tivit lists. I will try it for sure, but who knows? Moving on to our last card. You gotta say it funny. You gotta say it funny. You gotta say it like.
Okay. I'll channel my inner Wyatt Earp since that's who I was named after.
No kidding. I did not know that.
So up next, we got Tarnation Vista. Tarnation Vista enters the battlefield tapped. As it enters, you choose a color. You can tap and add 1 mana of the chosen color, and for 1 in tap, you can, for each color among monoed colored permanents you control, add 1 mana of that color. So, I think in decks like 5-color piles like Kenrith and Sisay, potentially tapping for up to 5 mana for 1 is really, really good. I do think this land has potential. It does enter tapped, which is an obvious downside. We're not a fan of things entering tapped in cEDH.
I think we should redo the entire set review and have you talk like that the entire time. That was priceless.
I think I will ruin my voice if I try to do that.
The comments are going to be like, redo the whole video.
No, I think I'm going to get made fun of, but that's okay. But like I said, I think this land has a lot of potential in like your 4 to 5 color decks. Even in 3 color decks, I think, well, in any deck really, paying 1 mana to go up in mana is just always going to be good.
Yeah, the only downside of this card is that it enters tapped. That's the big thing. So, I mean, and you can't, it's not fetchable, so you can't be like, oh, I'll go fetch it on unstep, choose the color, and then untap with it. So, I don't think it's going to see cEDH play because of the enters tap. That's kind of, I feel like that's really crucial because sometimes we always want to be able to have that mana that we need, and having a land come in tap is just, it feels bad when we're 1 short, but still a very strong card. So
it's also a little odd because there's not a lot of land-based decks in our format, so there's not a lot of decks that are going to be aggressively digging for this unless they're using it as more of like a ramp effect. Then using like a crop rotation to go into this, theoretically, you'd be expending 1 mana and then another mana and still have to wait to untap it to then go up. So while it does have a lot of upside, I do think I think your assessment is right. It might just be actually a little too slow for our format, unfortunately.
Yeah. I mean, I know that the Surveil lands are seeing play and they enter tapped, but I think that they're only seeing play in Rogsai, I believe, because of the Surveil part, and I just don't think it's gonna. Because I mean, as a Sisay player, yes, I would love to be able to tap for 1 and make 4.
Activate Sisay.
Like, yeah, it just seems great. But the tap is just like the biggest turn off for a cEDH player, I feel like. So
maybe it'll show up, find its way into like some weird amulet combo deck, like similar to Modern.
I will say, if you're on a budget, I think this is an auto include.
Yes, it's 100%. For sure a great budget include, because if you are already making some of those deck concessions of a budget player anyway, it coming in tap's not going to affect you, and it's going to be one of your better mana generating lands for sure.
But I mean, this set as a whole, I mean, phenomenal. I am, like I said, I don't know if I said it earlier, but I am very excited for pre-release on Friday. I am excited to open up some cool reprints like Terror of the Peaks.
I'm probably going to get one of the Mindbreak traps.
Yeah, I mean, the art is just awesome. Now, I will say there is a lot of different arts and a lot.
There's like 8 printings of every card.
Like, so I'm a little overwhelmed by that, but I am excited overall for the set. So I hope you guys are too. So I think that's going to wrap up today's set review. Overall, a great set. And I definitely think, while, again, not all banger cards, I think the Outlaws themselves, the Thunder Junction, are going to be shaking up the cEDH format really soon.
Oh, for sure. This is the first set in a long time where we've had this many cards even just have potential to see play in our format. Which is awesome. On top of some of the arts being great, and we get to see a bunch of returning characters from the lore, which is also really, really cool. Like, I think this set knocked it out of the park. Yeah, and I think just having, as a cEDH player, seeing a Mindbreak trap reprint could not have been a better time. For sure. So, that's going to wrap up today's set review, guys. Thank you guys for watching. If you like this video and want to see more, feel free to hit that like and subscribe button. It really does help our channel, and we love the support. We appreciate you all. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time on Wintuition MTG, the 6th sense of EDH. Have a good one.